Welcome to That's Too Personal, the show that talks about extremely personal, hilarious, and often uncomfortable situations and conundrums of everyday life. On this episode, we have hosts Dakota Sabo and Kaici Lore. This might be too personal.
Just call me Becky Barnes.
All right, and welcome to That's Too Personal, episode 9. I'm one of your hosts, Dakota Sabo.
I'm Kaici Lore.
How are you doing today, Kaici?
I've been better, that's for sure.
Today we're going to be talking about death.
Dun dun dun.
Right, it's fresh on some of our minds. And what makes you want to talk about death this week?
A friend of mine lost a parent these past couple of weeks, and yesterday we were dealing with the aftermath of that. She was finalizing preparations. We were trying to get his house cleaned up, and sitting out there and spending time with my friends just kind of made me think of like my own parents' deaths and what that means. And it really, like, even though I'm young, I'm 27, morality hit really, really hard, and I hadn't expected it to hit that hard. Also, I'm coming up on the anniversary of one of my high school best friend's deaths. He actually not his death, his birthday. Next week, he would have been next Wednesday. He would have been 27, and it's really weird to think that, like, I'm young and here are these people that I know that are
Perishing.
Yeah. Like I expected all of us to start dying in our 70s and 80s, not.
There's been several people from my graduating class or people I've gone to high school with who have passed away at this point. You know, most people in their lives experience a family member passing away, but to have someone like immediately connected to you, I don't know. I think there's a bit of a difference there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's talk about our parents and people that are close to us familially first.
Yeah.
Dealing with this right now has made me really consider the things that I want in life, particularly with my own children. I didn't have a relationship with my grandparents. They passed when I was relatively young. I mean, I have some memories of both of my grandmothers, but not enough that I feel like I truly miss them. Like, I do, but it's
right. You don't have very strong connections.
Of all the people in my family that passed away, when my uncle passed away, that was the most traumatizing thing I think I'd ever been through. Like, he was another father figure in my life, so it kind of felt like I was losing my own father. But after dealing with this past weekend, I'm starting to be really concerned that if I don't have children anytime soon, my children won't be able to spend time with my parents and, you know, my partner's parents, and they won't have a relationship like my partner did with his grandparents, you know. And at the same time, I also know I'm not in a place financially, mentally, emotionally to be having children, because economically they're expensive as hell.
Yeah.
And I'm an actor, for Christ's sake. I barely have money to get like a bottle of beer. Like, I mean,
let alone a bottle of formula.
I'm about to go shoot my first project, and it's an unpaid gig.
Yeah.
Like, this major thing, and I'm not, you know, and I don't know if there's going to be more of those. I don't know if I'm going to be picked up by, you know, a major corporation or a major studio.
So, you know, you brought up your parents' deaths. I remember a few years ago, I talked to my brother, and I thought, you know, we probably only got another 15, maybe 20 years with their parents, and then they're going to be gone. And it really hit me. And recently I was talking to my girlfriend, who's 7 years younger than me, and about mortality and how, you know, my parents are probably going to die before hers. You know, probably, you know, things happen. And just what a weird thing that is, and, you know, how she really doesn't have as much time left with her folks. She probably thinks.
Well, I mean, I don't think I have a lot of time left, and both of my parents are in their 60s, and that doesn't seem very old. But at the same time, I'm getting calls from my mom that's like, look, I need you to come do this because I don't have the energy to do all of this. My knees hurt,
Yeah.
And really, like, that's making me think of their own mortality. And I think we get this image, and I know we get this image of our parents just being these immortal beings because they're just always there. And then when one of them goes, it just shatters that image. And I can't speak for that because my parents aren't gone yet, thankfully. But I know multiple people that have lost their parents within the past, like, couple of years.
So that looking at people as being immortal, or that stereotypical teenage thing of looking at yourself as, it's like, I'm immortal, nothing's going to happen to me sort of thing. I never had that. I've always been very cognizant of death, and that I'm going to die someday, and that everyone I know is going to die someday. And I've never really tried to tie it in. Well, I don't want to get in religion and all that. Let's just keep it about death. But I don't know. I never had that outlook. It's still a shock when death happens.
Oh, it's always a shock.
It's coming for all of us. But
even if you're expecting it, if someone's in hospice care or it's still a shock. I personally thought I was immortal in high school. Absolutely. And I thought that I was the owner of my mortality. So like when my brain started getting bad and I wanted to end things, I thought that was me taking my own immortality and turning it into a mortality thing. I mean, that sounds really, really dumb, but like I thought the only thing that could kill me was me.
Right.
like a weird superhero thought, like Mr. Manhattan kind of deal.
So did you think to yourself, wow, I took that away from me? Or did you finally have the realization that, no, anything can fucking kill me?
Both. There's still times where my brain's like, no, I'm still invincible. I can still do a whole lot of things because I'm young and I'm strong and I'm able. And I have the power to do a lot of things. And that includes, I have the power to, end my own life. But at the same time, there are other things like people that don't know how to drive and terrible food and floating down a river and cutting your foot open.
See, I don't know if it's just the pessimist in me, but I've pretty much always thought of myself as a fragile being who's moments away from death. I've had a headache now for the past 4 days. And every summer, for the past few years, I've gotten a headache for multiple weeks or even months straight. And it's miserable. And so it's like that flavor of the week thing I was talking about a couple podcasts ago. Mm-hmm. It's like, here I am. Like, here's new illness or sickness, and it just happens. So I just feel like any one of my things could kill me.
Yeah. Well, so I've been dealing with that as well, actually. I don't know if you saw, but the Disney Channel star, Cameron Boyce.
Yeah, I saw that.
He passed away from SUDEP, and that is sudden unexpected death from epilepsy. And I'm an epileptic, and I didn't know that this was a thing. Like, my doctors never told me about it. They never said, hey, you should...
By the way, you might be a ticking time bomb.
I looked up the symptoms of it, and it's like, if you're missing a dose of your medicine, which I'm guilty of doing sometimes just because I'm lazy, you're stressed out and exhausted. And I'm like, all right, so apparently this is how I'm going to go nowadays. Like, it's going to still be me, but I'm not going to have control over it. It's just my brain going, all right, you know what? We're done. Out. Psh.
Yeah.
Like,
one of my number one fears of death is brain aneurysm. Just like an instant thing. Nobody knows it's coming. It can happen to anybody. And all of a sudden, your brain just don't work and you're dead.
I would rather go that way than any other way. Because then I don't have to, like, I'm not suffering. I'm not in pain.
I don't know.
That sounds really dark.
The death is coming.
Nah. I mean, I would like to know as well. I think everyone would like to know when they're gonna die, just so that they can.
I just want like 5 minutes prep time. So like,
hold on. I need a shower and I need to like.
No, if I was ever in a situation, I was talking about this with my girlfriend. This is way more of a hypothetical. We were talking about zombie scenarios and how if you're a bit, would you want someone to just pull a bullet, like or pull a trigger and shoot you right in the head right then? Nothing. Or would you be like, I need a second. And like, let me.
You just have them cut that limb off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if unless it's like a rage virus type thing.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But but it did get me thinking. I think this is something I've thought about a lot actually. If say a serial killer or some crazy maniac broke into my house and was like going to kill me, I would try to persuade them. It's like, let me make like one phone call. And I don't know necessarily who that phone call is going to be to at any given time. Because whenever I think of this scenario, it's always a different person. But I would like to have a phone call and then he can chop my head off or whatever. I just want a little bit of time to, take a shit, maybe. And so, I don't have to deal with that in my pants.
So your loved ones don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to, since we're on the topic of death and preparation, I want to talk about a really weird scenario that happened this past week that kind of falls in this. So I work for a local community college, right? So I work the front desk. So whenever people come in, I check them in, tell them where they need to go. And it's summer, so obviously nobody's coming around. Well, I had this guy come in. And he was disgruntled and upset, and he wanted to talk to the president, who was on vacation. So I was like, hold on, let me see if his executive assistant or someone can speak with you about this. And it was the most, I don't know, there was nothing to give me this like vibe, but I
had the vibe.
I had the vibe. I was like, this is
Your
how
Peter tingle was working.
this is how I'm gonna go. He looked like really, really upset about the situation that he was in. So I walked back to her office and I was like, can you talk to this gentleman? Can you help him out? And I shuffled him back there and I sat out there at the front desk and I was like, I'm waiting for the gunshots.
Right.
I can feel them coming. I'm like, all right, I pulled up my Facebook on my work computer. I like immediately go to my best friend. I'm like, hey, I need you to do me like some few things. This sounds dumb. I need you to tell mom and this person I love them. I need you to tell this guy just like, hey, everything's fine. Just get up. You're fine.
And then you bring up drowning pool on your iPod.
I was like, all right. Here's the exit. Here's the stairwell. What's the easiest way? I had my phone in my pocket. My keys were latched to my waist. I was like inching back as much as I could while still like being where I needed to be. And my friend is like, so just like give me the all clear if everything's fine. I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna happen, but like just in case.
And
and about a half hour later, the guy walked out of the building, and nothing happened. But like my gut still, like my adrenaline was still stupid high. My gut was still like, I don't know why you're sitting here. You need to be running. And about an hour passed, and I messaged my friend and I was like, okay, he's left the building. It's been an hour. Nothing has happened. There's been no drive-by. And it was really like the first time in a long time that I like sat and thought about my morality and who I wanted to talk to when I died. And like the three people that came to my mind is I was like, oh, that's an interesting combination of people, you know? And I like sit and wonder if like in a few years, is it still going to be those people?
It's definitely not.
It's such a weird thing to think about.
Because like some of the people that I've had, like I want to get in contact with this person. In a few times in the past few years, I thought I'm going to die. And so I would sit around and write out wills or messages to different people. Because I didn't know for sure, and I thought, I don't want to be too fucking crazy and be the boy who cried wolf too many times. Like, oh, I'm dying, you know. So, they're always different people, and sometimes they're like exes or something like that, or best friends I've not talked to in years. Sometimes it's the person I'm currently dating, my parents. It could be anybody. I think it just depends on the day. and who you're thinking about, or who is most important to you at that moment. And for different reasons.
It was a really interesting introspection, and I really dealing with that and thinking about who I wanted to speak to, what messages I wanted to get out, made me really sit and think about why those people are really important to me. And then that's when I went, you know what, it would be really, really cool if I do go, it's just an immediate thing and I don't get time to do that, because I have a feeling that somehow something I said would upset one of the other people. Like, I'm afraid that, like, in my death, someone is going to be upset because of something I wanted to say to another person. You know what I mean?
As someone who has contemplated killing themselves in the past, have you ever thought about throwing someone else under the bus, and, like, just to make them feel really bad after it's gone?
No.
Because I have.
No.
I thought about it, was like, it's all this person's fault. They can go right to hell.
No. I mean, I remember my first note, and it was mostly to just my parents and my family, and it was all like, don't blame yourselves. I love you all very much. This was something that I wanted to do. This is, there's just a bit too much, because you're not, you didn't ask, I didn't ask to be born. A lot of people didn't ask to be born. Yeah. And, most of the time I hate myself as a human. So, like, I mean, I might as well just take out my enemy, my own worst enemy. Like, I am my own worst enemy, guys. Like, I seem very positive, but let me tell you, I hate myself.
See, I can't say that. Like, when my depression gets me, I mean, I do hate myself sometimes, a lot of the time, for various reasons. But, like, I can kind of look at myself as, like, an outside character, like an outsider looking in on a character. Oh, no. Sometimes.
Yeah.
But most of the time, if I do have a fantasy about doing it, is generally out of hatred to, like, I just want to ruin, like, a couple people's lives. And I was just trying to figure out ways to pin it on.
No, it was all, for me, it was always just like, I am so done with dealing with all of this, and this thing would make everything so much easier. Like, yeah, other people would have to deal with it now, but these people that are still here are stronger. And I'm kind of sad that we've, like, veered this into suicide, which isn't what was expected. So if you are having suicidal thoughts, please, Lord Almighty, reach out.
Yeah, reach out
to anyone and everyone.
Don't act on your fantasies.
Please, Lord, don't. We need you. The world needs you. There's things that need to be done, and there's a reason you're here. Dealing with morality, whether it's
morality or mortality.
Morality. Dealing with mortality. Have I been saying morality this entire time?
You said morality once earlier, but I think everyone know what you're going for.
I think.
So this go back through. Anytime she actually said morality, it's mortality.
Look, I just want to put a caveat on this for everyone. I think my brain is melting. I'm about to go do something very stressful and very scary that I've never done before. So my brain is, like, in this weird blender right now. Like, I'm like, I feel like I'm starting to turn into, like, a machine. In regards to mortality, even though we're young, dealing with it, whether it's by our own hands, with our parents passing, with our classmates passing, it's weird. I don't think everyone fully accepts that mortality is a thing. I think we all think we're still young and vibrant and a multitude of different adjectives, but this past weekend has, like, really made me think about it. And my own past thoughts and past actions and what that would mean for people, and it's just like, it's such a weird thing to deal with. It's kind of like, why is everything that comes with adulthood the weirdest freaking shit to roll with, like parenting and taxes?
I think death is great because it's a lot like life. It comes in all shapes and sizes. You never know exactly how you're going to react to it at any given moment. Mm-mm. Because, I've had family members who have passed away, close family members, and I've not cared at all about them. Like, I thought, wow, I'm actually kind of glad they're in the dirt, to be honest. And then if one of my dog passed away, for example, I still cry about, I don't know, every few months, thinking to myself, I killed my best friend, because he was really sick at the end, and we took him in. We had to put him down because it was better. He was suffering, hadn't eaten and drink, and I was very methodical the whole way up into it. And then when he was there, we laid him down on the table. You do the injection, he lays down on the table, and that's it. Like, he's gone immediately. And I remember calling the pet crematory place afterwards. And whenever I get sad or have to deal with customer service, this is the only two situations where it's come out, I develop a very strong West Virginia accent that sort of sounds like a sad Yosemite Sam. And so I remember calling, like, yeah, this my dog just passed away, and it's like I'm breaking down.
Oh no!
And they must have thought that's the funniest fucking message. Like, I can just imagine being on the receiving end of that. However, I still think about, that was my decision. That I not that I forced anyone else to, but I was the only one that would make that decision. That no, we can't wait 2 more days for Monday over the weekend. We have to take him in 30 minutes because the office is going to close. We have to kill him now. And I think about that a lot. It was my decision to kill my friend, and that weighs on me way more than any person's death in my life.
One of my high school best friends, his birthday is next week, which I said earlier, and I wasn't responsible for it. I wasn't, involved, but his weighs on me a lot. We had plans to move to Los Angeles together. He had been my best friend all through high school, like the actual first male friend that I had. And he had asthma, and he caught bronchitis, and one night he had an asthma attack and fluid filled his lungs. So his girlfriend just came into the bathroom and found him. And what breaks my heart and what hurts the most is that the next day we were supposed to get together and get lunch and like hang out and really prep for the move. So instead of getting a phone call from him, I'm getting a phone call from our other best friend, because it was like the 3 of us rolling together, and her telling me that he had passed away. It's like, I can't. Have you heard 7 Years by Lucas Graham?
No.
It every time I can't hear it without like thinking of him, and every time I'll start like tearing up, and it's just it's such a weird feeling. It's so weird. And I have no hand in it. There was no way I could have prevented it. There's no way I could have known. That terrifies me. I think more than anything, someone finding me is what terrifies me. If I could control it, I would rather be in a hospital bed with all my family surrounding me. Because
when you're in a hospital, you kind of expect to maybe see a dead person there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not in their favorite reclining chair or in their bathroom on the floor.
That's always a tough one. And I know when people talk about suicide, a lot of times that's one thing that they don't want is their family finding them, sad and, whatever is going on.
Like that.
They do not want to be seen, but just dying in general. I don't want, if I would die from a medical complication or something like that, I definitely wouldn't want my girlfriend, like, oh, there he is, he's dead. I can't imagine the immediate aftermath of that and the emotional outpouring.
I couldn't. I also can't imagine dying alone.
Oh, that's one of the scariest things to me.
Like if that may be one of I agree. Like, I can't imagine just being in bed and then.
I picture myself sometimes being old, and I've had a rough life or something, and I'm sitting around, and maybe my friends have just left, and I get up and I fall on the floor, and then I can't breathe, and then that's it, and then it's a day or two later, and then someone finds me, and just how awful that would be.
Or like days, weeks, months.
Oh my God.
My fear is that I'll be in the shower and I have a seizure and the bathroom is locked and I take the shower curtain down with me and all of this destruction happens and people don't check on me for like a week or two and then they come in and it's just all of that. Like I can't imagine finding somebody. I mean, I feel like eventually I'm going to find one of my parents. Like that's an inevitability, but at the same time it terrifies me. It absolutely terrifies me. My friend's husband found her dad. He's the one that went out and found him, and he was telling me yesterday, he's like, I still have nightmares about it. I can see it, and it's still fresh. It's still really fresh for both of them. But
I know when my grandfather was in the nursing home, I would go out there sometimes, and he would just be screaming at the top of his lungs in pain. And I remember one time I had to leave the room. It was just me out there visiting him, and I went and cried in like the lobby area for, I don't know, a good 15 minutes and bawling. And people will come up to me. It's like, are you all right? And it's like, I tried to tell them what was going on. And I still have nightmares and can still hear his screams when I go to bed sometimes at night. So I think that PTSD of death and finding somebody and seeing that imagery, it just affects people.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
You're seeing another person in a state that you don't want them to be in.
Absolutely. Especially someone that you love and care for.
Yeah.
It's woof.
Well, that's
no, I mean, what other how else do we end this? I mean, it's just, do you as listeners, do you have any advice on how to deal with this? Because these are things that you and I haven't dealt with fully yet.
What's the most effective way you've dealt with death?
With trauma.
Death,
suicide. And again, if you are experiencing suicidal thoughts, please reach out to somebody, whether that's us specifically.
Suicide hotlines.
Suicide hotline. I mean, Logic has that whole song. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but please. There's a text line.
Yeah.
There's everything.
Go to a Reddit. There's Reddit threads dedicated to this. You can go talk to somebody there if you don't want to, do the online phone thing or whatever.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, then that's been this episode of That's Too Personal. I've been one of your hosts, Dakota Sabo.
I've been Kaici Lore.
And we will see you on the next episode.
Peace out.
This has been an episode of That's Too Personal. For more That's Too Personal, visit fuss.com.